Bed Bath & Beyond operates as a massive retail chain focused on selling bedroom and bathroom merchandise, though the product range extends further than that, hence the clever name. Most of us have likely visited this retailer at some point, especially considering they grew to become the largest company of their type in history. At their height in 2018, they operated more than 1,500 stores throughout America, bringing an annual revenue exceeding $12 billion and earning Fortune 500 status. I can't help but remember Adam Sandler's film Click whenever I think of them. The store featured prominently in several scenes. That movie came out in 2006 when the chain had already achieved significant size, yet hadn't reached even half of what would become their ultimate peak. Around 10 years ago, Bed Bath & Beyond was frequently cited as one of retail's greatest triumphs, which makes their current situation particularly tragic. Their performance has deteriorated significantly over recent years. While they've occasionally implemented encouraging changes showing glimpses of potential recovery, the overall trend has been negative. Back in 2014, the company's market valuation stood at $17 billion. That figure has since plummeted to less than $500 million as I create this content. They've announced multiple waves of store closures in recent years, with the latest revelation in September 2022 indicating 87 additional locations would cease operations. Tragically, their chief financial officer, who had been recruited specifically to assist in revitalizing the business, died by suicide. The subsequent month saw Moody's reduce their credit rating, citing substantial default risk within the coming year. Extensive bankruptcy discussions have emerged from the company's own statements, essentially acknowledging their inability to service their obligations. Their sales trajectory over recent years paints a troubling picture. They've essentially been in a downward spiral for several years, and unfortunately, unless something dramatic occurs, Bed Bath & Beyond appears headed toward potential closure. This represents a significant development worthy of examination. So let me walk you through the remarkable ascent and subsequent decline of Bed Bath & Beyond. The beginning. Leonard Feinstein and Warren Eisenberg worked as management at a struggling department store named Ouerlein's in 1971. That year, the company reported $19 million in losses and would shortly declare bankruptcy. The pair decided to leave and launch their own venture. Drawing from their professional experience, they believed traditional department stores were becoming obsolete while specialty retailers represented the future. This inspired them to establish a shop exclusively offering bedroom and bathroom items, aptly named Bed & Bath. Their initial location was modest, a 2,000 square foot space within a New Jersey strip mall. But it marked the start of something significant, and their instincts about specialty retail proved accurate. By 1985, they had expanded to 17 stores, primarily concentrated in the Northeast. However, competition was intensifying. Most significantly, Linens 'N Things, a comparable retailer, had been purchased by Melville Corporation, a large firm owning several retail chains including KB Toys and CVS. They possessed the resources to grow Linens 'N Things beyond 50 locations. To distinguish themselves from Linens 'N Things and emerging rivals, Bed & Bath began opening supersized stores exceeding 20,000 square feet and rebranded as Bed Bath & Beyond. Hey, quick favor before we dive deeper. If you're enjoying this deep dive into the company's documentary, smash that like button and subscribe. Reasons for initial success: variety. This brings me to their first success factor, variety. Opening these superstores wasn't an original concept. It reflected a broader retail trend where specialty shops would scale operations through large facilities that were economically efficient enough to provide customers with exceptional product selection at competitive prices. This model exploded during the 1980s and 1990s, with these stores becoming known as category killers, an aggressive term, but fitting since they drove many smaller retailers out of business. Bed Bath & Beyond stocked bedroom and bathroom products in virtually every conceivable variation. Seriously, if you wanted a towel in a particular shape, size, or color, you'd probably locate it there. While this may not seem remarkable today, 3 decades ago, it was extraordinary. Marketing strategy. The company also excelled at marketing. They allocated minimal funds to advertising. You rarely saw television commercials for them. Instead, they invested that budget in customer service and the in-store experience, trusting that satisfied shoppers would recommend them to others. The famous coupons. Then there were the coupons. They became renowned for their blue and white coupons, offering 20% off purchases. The founders believed conventional sales or promotions limited customers to specific merchandise, while these coupons allowed discounts on any purchase. They distributed hundreds of millions annually through mail, effectively driving foot traffic. Store layout. The layout has always mattered. Specifically, their extremely tall displays, stacking products, sometimes reaching the ceiling. This helps customers identify different sections from a distance. These are large stores, after all, while showcasing the enormous volume and diversity of their inventory. Decentralized operations. Another element was their decentralized methodology regarding inventory and management. They saved money by having merchandise delivered straight to stores rather than storing it centrally, while allowing each location to adjust based on their specific market. Managers could exercise their own judgment about their area to modify pricing or even product offerings. Organic growth. Finally, you must appreciate that for many years, Bed Bath & Beyond grew their business organically, reinvesting earnings to open new stores without depending on major acquisitions. They didn't purchase any other companies until 2002, and even those were relatively small scale. That first acquisition was Harmon, a 27-store chain. The next year, they purchased Christmas Tree Shops, a 23-store chain. In 2007, they acquired Buy Baby, which might sound significant given they now have over 100 locations, but there were only 8 stores when they bought it. Worth noting, it was founded by 2 sons of co-founder Leonard Feinstein, who remained with the company, so there's a family connection. In 2012, they made their largest acquisition, paying nearly $500 million for 250 cost plus world market locations. Though I'd still argue this had minimal impact on their core business and was largely a side venture. Given all these factors, it's understandable how Bed Bath & Beyond grew into the multi-billion-dollar Fortune 500 corporation they became. But obviously things turned negative from there. The decline. 3 major reasons. Now this becomes much more sobering as I identify what I consider the 3 primary causes of their deterioration. All 3 have been tremendously damaging, but the trouble originated with competition. 1. Competition and e-commerce. Remember how during the 1980s and the 1990s, Bed Bath & Beyond became a category killer by providing unmatched variety at reasonable prices? Well, it turns out that most companies using that model, competing on variety, have been particularly susceptible to e-commerce. Obviously, Amazon and other online retailers have exceeded that level of selection in a more convenient format. So it's not just Bed Bath & Beyond. Nearly all the category killers that dominated their markets back then have been forced to either adjust their approach or close entirely. I realize I'm probably stating the obvious, but Bed Bath & Beyond should have made substantial e-commerce investments years ago. But that's not what happened. As recently as 2012, their website generated only 3% of total sales. They attempted to improve this by purchasing several internet retailers, but again on a relatively small scale, and none significantly impacted core operations. Now their excessive in-store inventory quickly became a liability. It no longer attracted customers the way it once had. It even became overwhelming for many. Yet they were still paying to maintain it. They had to employ other methods to draw customers, and for that they leaned more heavily on their famous coupon promotions. Really, it seemed nearly everyone shopping there was only doing so to use their 20% off coupons. This maintains customers and moves inventory, but in a less profitable manner. Interestingly, from 2013 to 2018, a 6-year period, their sales kept rising while profits consistently declined. So even though 2018 was technically their biggest year, it's hard to dispute that serious problems had already begun years earlier. 2. The failed turnaround strategy. My second decline factor is their unsuccessful turnaround attempt. This gets somewhat complicated, but in 2019, some investors disapproved of the company's management. Honestly, they may have had valid concerns. They pressured the CEO to resign, which also led to both founders stepping down from the board. Essentially a complete overhaul, bringing in entirely new leadership. Notably, Mark Tritton became the new CEO. He had previously served as Chief Merchandising Officer at Target, where he implemented effective strategies involving private label brands. Those store brands that typically have much higher profit margins compared to the national brands that are more familiar. His plan for Bed Bath & Beyond was to essentially introduce 8 or 9 private labels sold exclusively in their stores, divest most of those unrelated companies they had acquired, and reinvest that capital into core operations for things like store renovations and technology improvements, and finally reduce dependence on coupons. I have to admit, it sounds like an ideal plan that could potentially address all their issues. Just consider, store brands are more profitable and give customers a reason to shop at your store instead of internet retailers like Amazon or Wayfair because they're unavailable there. It all seemed very promising, but it didn't work, mostly because they were hasty. Immediately, they removed many name brands from shelves and substituted them with new store brands nobody had heard of. They should have gradually introduced them, giving customers time to become familiar and compare them to established brands. Plus, the pandemic struck right in the middle of all this, causing unexpected supply chain disruptions. Ultimately, the plan worsened things. This is where their profits really began struggling. In 2022, they removed Mark Tritton, discontinued many store brands, reintroduced many name brands customers had missed, and began distributing more coupons again, essentially reversing many aspects of the turnaround plan. But that wasn't exactly a great position to return to anyway. There's much more that could be discussed about this, but that's the essential point. 3. Stock buybacks. My final decline reason is stock buybacks. A company might repurchase their own stock if they believe it's undervalued, or as an attempt to reduce outstanding shares and influence the price. Well, Bed Bath & Beyond has been buying their own shares from the stock market fairly regularly for nearly 20 years now. Notably, in 2014, they issued $1.5 billion in bonds and used those funds to buy back their own stock. This is where most of their debt originated. They were completely debt-free before that. Knowing what we all know now, I can guarantee you that borrowing money to purchase Bed Bath & Beyond stock in 2014 was a terrible decision. They also spent an additional $1 billion buying it back during that major turnaround plan, showing confidence, but clearly proving to be another waste of resources. Over those past 20 years, they actually spent almost $12 billion repurchasing their own stock at an average price of $44 per share, whereas currently it's trading in single digits. Had they not done all this, bankruptcy wouldn't even be under consideration because they wouldn't be in debt, and they'd have substantial funds to attempt changes and execute yet another turnaround plan. Closing thoughts. Let me know in the comments. What do you think of Bed Bath & Beyond? Do you shop there regularly, or only when you have coupon? Or do you avoid them completely because you prefer one of their competitors? Either way, if you're interested in Bed Bath & Beyond in any capacity, I recommend playing it safe and visiting soon because it's uncertain how long they'll remain in business. Also, what do you envision for their future? Is it too late? Will there be a revival? Share any other thoughts you have about Bed Bath & Beyond in the comments. I'd like to hear what you have to say. Thank you for watching.